Present.
Commissioner Kaler,
Present.
Commissioner Clayton, and Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and it's good to see everybody here with us today, and also watching on some form of social media, whatever that may be. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Pastor Timothy Roth of Faith Lutheran Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. O sovereign God, by your omnipotent hand you have given us dominion over your creation and established all governing authorities. Yet we, through the abuse of the liberty you gave, have brought sin and death to your good creation. In our fall, you have given governing authorities the sword to curb our sin, establish justice, and promote peace. You command them to approve those who do what is good and right according to your will, and to bring your wrath upon those who do wrong in rebellion. Therefore we pray your Spirit be upon these your servants, that they wield the sword according to your command. Enlighten and defend them as they deliberate and fulfill their duty. Grant them divine wisdom and understanding. Guide them for the sake of your people and the general welfare of the citizens of Ottawa. Help them fulfill their responsibilities with integrity by turning to your statutes and following your will. In your almighty name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. I guess we'll go on to public comments. Do we have any registered?
We have none registered.
Okay. We'll go on to no appointments, proclamations today, looks like. So we'll go on to consent agenda. We've had minutes from the May 15th, 2024 City Commission meeting. Do we have an approval for the agenda, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think we're good. Declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Hearing none, we'll go on to 10, which is no unfinished business. So we got all new business today. We got to review the 2025 operating budget for the electric fund. We got Finance Director Landis and Utilities Director Riney. It looks like we got pages 6 through 35, so you guys take the lion's share of this meeting today, it looks like. Or all of it, maybe.
Thank you. So, as you said, we actually have several of our staff members from our electric utility in the room. Like they did sit towards the back over here. Don't let them out of your line of sight. So, anyway, they are here to help answer all the questions that you might have about all of the different divisions and activities, functions that happen within this one electric utility fund. And with that, there are 5 different divisions outside of the projects and the capital improvement pieces as well. So we do have quite a bit to go through today. So the purpose of the electric utility and this fund that we're budgeting for is not only production as needed or when needed, but also making sure that we have a reliable service and that we have a sustainable utility. Being able to provide cost-effective and efficient use of the electricity production when needed, and all of the dollars that are allocated for the different divisions within the electric utility fund is really our goal here. The utility is an enterprise fund, and so as with the last 3 presentations that we've given you, it is the revenues generated from user fees support all of the operations in this fund. There aren't any transfers into this fund. It doesn't receive any additional revenues outside, such as sales tax or property tax or any of those things. The rate structure for 25 is shown in the slide. It's a lot of information, a lot of little details there, but really there to show you that there are a lot of different parts and pieces to pay attention to when setting a rate structure for an electric utility. And it might be confusing to some how that electricity is actually charged. But we do have different categories, different rates, fees and structures. We did bring to you a recommendation in 2023, beginning in 2023, to have a 5-year rate increase plan for this utility, and that was 6% increase annually for the rate that's charged, but that did not include the large power users or that demand power fee. For 2024, unlike the other two utilities that had rate increases, the electric utility we have not implemented the 2024 rate increases quite yet. Our plan is to bring to you a conversation in the fall to talk about other things that are within the electric utility that we want to have discussions with you about. We did a small study with KMEA and some other information that you had asked about during our last utility rate study. And so I wanted to bring some of that information back to you. Also, the timing of a rate increase is best after you're coming down off of a high period from the summer, and as opposed to right before a summertime increase in use. And so that's some of the reasons we want to delay putting that in place. Sorry, I feel like I'm looking right through the microphone. Your head's covered. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, we have 5 different divisions, and so we're going to start with production. And I just have a few key points. The budget highlights are on the screen, but really I wanted to make a couple of comment notes for you that are really included in the narrative sheet that you receive for this division. But just a couple of highlights is that we use a combined, we have purchase power and we generate power as needed for our utility, and that we are interconnected to Evergy via 161 kV and 35 kV lines. We are contracted with GRDA, Southwest Power Authority, Western Area Power Authority, Marshall Wind Farm, Buckeye Wind Farm, Dogwood Energy, as well as we purchase power off the SPP integrated market. So there's a variety of resources that we use for our electric utility overall. We are a member of the Energy Management Project 1, EMP1, with nearby cities, and a couple of other notes related to capital projects, which we'll talk a little bit about here. But there was a 2015 electric study that was done, and it did recommend some infrastructure improvements at the Northeast substation. However, that project has not been completed yet due to lack of funding. We'll talk a little bit about the overall fund and where we are in fund balance and what that looks like here in just a few minutes. But some of the recent infrastructure improvements that we've made are replaced the aging cooling tower in 2022, and then in 2024 we've updated the muffler and catalyst on the generators. As you heard just a couple of weeks ago, we do still maintain and we work really hard to meet the reliability standards for the RP3 designation. On the screen, some of the highlights that you'll see within those line item budgets is we did plan in 2024 to purchase ground transformers. However, they haven't been purchased or installed yet. So we will be moving some money to the capital improvement fund to be able to purchase those when they're available and or installed. One item that I didn't add to this is the purchase of the outage mapping system that we're working towards. It has not been yet totally accomplished, but we're working in that direction. In 2025, some of the items are we expect the purchase power and demand power purchases and those line item expenses to increase over 25 and 26, as with all expenses that we're realizing in lots of different areas. We have $250,000 allocated to the testing and repair of the 200,000 gallon diesel storage tank. And as a side note, when you have to replace the fuel that's in that tank, we had to reallocate monies around between the 2 years, trying to plan appropriately to make sure that there was funds to accomplish that when that's completed. $20,000 in the removal and preventive maintenance of the cooling tower pump 2, testing and maintenance on the 161 kV transmission system equipment, a updated electric system study, which we are proposing to do every 5 years, and we have built into our 5-year forecast, 5 or 10-year forecast, and then also the replacement of a vehicle from a current SUV to a full-size crew cab truck to be able to accomplish some of the needs that they have.
On the electric study, what was it? Is there a date on that or a year that we plan to do that, or is that every 5 years?
We plan every 5 years, and the next time to do that is 2025.
This year. Okay, good.
Mhm.
Thanks.
We're planning ahead to 25 to do that. Yes. Yes. And then I think we've mentioned this in previous conversations, but maybe not. In each one of your budget highlights, we're actually planning ahead as well as planning for next year. And so some of the things that, at least one of the items that we wanted to bring to your attention is that we're proposing in 26 that we'll have some transformer testing and load tap changes that need to be accomplished. Because we have so many divisions, would you like to ask questions about production now, or would you like to go through all the divisions and then ask questions?
This might be good. Let's ask questions now. How about as we go to each one? So anybody have any questions on this one? Let's see. I've got different page numbers here. Let me see what had. On page 7 on our sheet here. Well, I guess we haven't really gotten to the revenue and expense summary yet, have we?
No.
Okay, I'll hold that question.
Okay.
Any other questions on what we've covered so far, though? Okay, I guess we're good.
Okay. We'll move on to distribution. So some of the key highlights for distribution, not just budget highlights, but part of the narrative that's in the packet for them as well, is that they maintain over 60 miles of line. They have over 3,600 poles, over 1,000 overhead transformers, 390 pad mount transformers, over 500 switches. They also manage 2,000 poles and lights that may not be reflected in these numbers here. They maintain 14 traffic signals, one of which is in your CIP to be replaced, but truly 11 of the 14 need replaced at this time. If we're talking about long-term planning, that would be one of those items. They conduct your utility locates, and they design the transformer size and location for each of the new developments as they come in. They coordinate for the electrical upgrades and new service connections and disconnections. They maintain 10 tornado sirens and all of the Christmas lights along Main Street. In 2014, they conducted a Circuit 8 and 10 power quality study recommending, I said 2014, I apologize, 2024, and recommending the tree trimming and some addressing some of the slack span. And I think we've had some previous conversations about that, but in our highlights and what we've prepared for you here in the budget is a continuous, I call them quadrant approach. I don't know if they're true quadrant, but in a way that we're working the tree trimming throughout the city in a planned, organized manner. For this division, there's a couple of planned capital projects that were in your CIP that we discussed several weeks ago. One of them being the system conversion from the 2400 to 7200, which enhances our reliability and efficiency. That design is budgeted for 2025, but the construction will occur over several years before that's long-term financed. And then the replacement of the 15th and Main traffic signal is also in there for 2025. Also, this division meets the requirements and standards for the RP3 designation. So in that, as the budget highlights are listed for you here, we do have to replace one of our large pieces of equipment and vehicles, and that we're planning to do that in 2027. That cost is somewhere around $450,000. So we'll be setting aside and through a transfer to a reserve fund, $150,000 over the next 3 years to be able to accomplish that purchase. And you'll see listed in each one of those years some dollars set aside for tree trimming for quadrants 2, 3, and 4. We have just recently or in the process of finishing up quadrant 1. We have utility pole replacement as well as some additional purchases of the brackets for the veterans banners along those poles that are noted in 2024 as items that are in our current budget. In 2025, some of the same cost is 2024. Those are recurring with the tree trimming and some utility pole replacement, but also the replacement of a vehicle. And then in 2026, more of the same, the utility pole replacement and the transfer for the large equipment, and then the tree trimming as well. With that, do you have questions about the distribution division?
On the traffic signal at 15th and Main, that's the one we're talking about earlier, I believe you said, right? And I had no idea that the cost of these units, what they run to get that done.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, let me ask you first, is there a need for this replacement, and what would the new signals provide for us that maybe the current one doesn't? Is it more of a smart signal, or is it smart smarter than the drivers, we hope. Ed?
Commissioners, Mr. Mayor, yeah, that 575,000 is for the whole intersection upgrade, not only traffic signals, but for your crosswalks, get all that stuff into appliance with the ADA. But I was told by my traffic signal guy that them poles, you have no, I mean, he suggests that we start replacing the poles, and that's where a lot of the money comes from too.
Okay, that's good, all right. I know that particular intersection, I believe, has more accidents, or at least sometimes I see it has more accidents than any other in town, so it's important to have good working, functioning traffic lights, obviously, but
Yeah.
maybe this part of it.
Hmm?
Do you know when that was put in place?
70s is when it was put in place, I
Is that
think,
right?
yeah, as
Years
near
old.
as I can tell,
Wow, I
so.
didn't know it was that old, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, thanks, Ed.
Mhm.
Oh, hold on, Ed. Hold on, Ed. Come on back. So this memo indicates that of the 14 traffic signals we have in town, 11 of those currently need replaced. However, we do not hear if you're looking at the high level budgets for the next 3 years, is that just utility pole replacement? That's not it. I mean, it would be denoted different, right? So is there a plan to actually start replacing these 11 that need replacements?
They'll
What's the plan?
They'll show up in our CIP for when you see it the next
Okay.
year. Yeah, we just haven't got out that far yet.
Okay.
And decided which ones,
But
are
we
more
certainly are not just
pressing.
going to wait until they fall down.
no,
So
well,
right?
no,
Okay.
we hope
Well,
not.
let's try to do a little preventative work. And just, I guess I'm asking, well, what, do we have, we're having conversations. Someone
Yes,
within the staff
yes,
is having conversations
yeah.
on how to get those up to
Yeah,
where they
Yeah.
should be.
yep,
Okay, thank you.
mm-hmm,
So I'm glad that you asked the question, Commissioner Kaler, because part of a lot of our conversations, not just part of our conversation, has been centered around with each one of our divisions, every utility and every person responsible for a division is, we know that these people have these plans in their head, but are they documented? Are they documented? Do we have estimated costs so that we can actually put together a really good long-term plan? And so while there's a lot of just the one-time things in here, that is something that everybody's working towards, and that'd be part of our strategic planning for this utility as well. Any other questions for the distribution division? No? All right. For the warehouse division, we have a few notes about them. That the warehouse was built in 1983. It does have an office inventory and the equipment spaces available. They have indoor parking for some of the quicker responses and inclement weather. It includes a parts yard that's 150,000 square feet. It does house the electric distribution, water distribution, and water reclamation collection divisions. And we have 3 administrative employees that work that entire warehouse in the grounds. They're responsible for monitoring the city Doppler system and work orders. They have the budget division records for each of those divisions I mentioned. And then they process and the needs for all of the parts for each one of those divisions, as well as doing all of the ordering, placement, the tagging of all of that, maintaining the inventory in a well placed manner so that they're easily accessible, that we have a really good inventory of all the parts that we have. Something that's not included in here as a long-term project and that we had discussions about but did not include in the financial piece of this yet is that in order for that parts yard to be truly accessible in all types of weather, for us to be to better serve the equipment or the parts and pieces that are stored there, it really does need to be asphalted. Right now, it's just gravel, and it makes it difficult to be able to access the parts that are needed at certain times. So that project itself is somewhere around $1.1 million, and so again, that's one project that's not included. It would be a huge hit to the budget, and without some really good long-term prioritized planning, we didn't want to just throw it in there quite yet. A couple of the budget highlights is that this is the second phase of the racking system installation, and I think you'll read in the narrative that that has been a tremendous improvement for their operations within the warehouse. They did the bulk of that project last year, the second part of it this year. As well as they're going to do a drainage study to determine if it's a good idea to have that asphalt lot there, as well as concrete a portion of the parking area at the warehouse in 2024. And then some of the other costs over 25 and 26 are noted is that there's some increases in some of those line items for weed chemicals, which chemicals across the board in all divisions have gone up, and that's a cost we don't have any control over, as well as just some maintenance costs for the building itself. Do you have any questions about the warehouse?
Director Landis, is the second phase of the racking the last phase that they'll be doing?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, over the years, as an electrician, I've been in that barn quite a bit, picking up meter cans for customers and stuff, and I've seen the transition of what it was and what it is now, and it's tremendous. If you haven't been down there, take a little trip down there and pull Kurt to the side and have Kurt do a little walkthrough with you. It may not look any different to you guys if you haven't seen it before, but it's a huge improvement. It makes finding things, as Kurt says, way easier to find. Actually, you found things that you didn't even know you had, quite honestly. So that's wonderful. And I just want to, I've said it before, but I also want to say it now. Great job. You guys have done a great job with what you've done, what you've got down there. I know it's not just you, Kurt, it's the other individuals down there. And I personally want to say it looks wonderful.
Good to hear. Good investment.
All right, any other questions about the warehouse? Or comments? Okay. The next division to discuss is the administration. It's called different things. It's been called utility billing. It's been called just system administration overall. But essentially what it does is that it houses the expenses that are required for billing overall for the utilities and the meter services team. Outside of the electric distribution and production teams, we actually have a team of meter readers, and then also they do the service orders for replacement of meters and rereads and all of the things that are related to the actual metering and billing and reading portion of that job. It does also include our, I think I mentioned the billing team and all of the expenses related to that, as well as the software that it takes in order to do billing and the accounting functions related to that, as well as the personnel for a portion of the finance department as well. A couple of noted things within our division budget. You'll notice that there's some annual increases for software, which are part of the contract that we don't have control over. There are increased costs for credit card expenses, credit card fees that come with accepting credit cards and providing more accessible, convenient ways for our customers to pay. There was a slight allocation between budgeted line items from our production division to this administration division, and then the purchase of 2 vehicles in 2025 to replace our meter services vehicles, and then the possible replacement of the kiosk that's out here in our parking lot, as it does have a lot of technical difficulties, sometimes on a daily basis, and a lot of it weather related, and it does definitely keep our IT staff busy trying to repair that on a regular basis so that it is actually convenient for our customers. And then a vehicle replacement in 2026.
Are quite a few people using the kiosk, or what's your read on that?
I'd like to know about usage of the kiosk too, and I wonder if it's just
Do you have that with you?
necessary to have it. I mean, and I was here when we put it in. I think Commissioner Skidmore was here too when we put it in, but, and
mean,
you
I
don't have
have
to have
the-
that today.
No, I have the dollars amount that comes that
But
way.
not the number of users per day or,
Not the number of users. We did a percentage of like how much in cash comes through to it, but I could definitely get you a user count. That would be something we could pull. But I do have like how much it costs us to operate versus how much money runs through it. I do have that.
Go ahead.
I think that would be important to maybe even just hear. I'm not saying that we don't want to hear that today, Rebecca. I'm just saying that might be important just to hear like as a separate. I mean, I
Okay.
think that you could probably give us lots of good information on that before we were.
Yeah, and that
to-
request was for, I mean, a study of what it would cost to replace it, a study of if the place in the parking lot is the best place for it. That figure was to hold to do a proposal for replacement and a real study of its use and the value of having it,
Okay.
so.
But, I mean, if we, I mean, I recognize that, I mean, a study, yes, may be necessary, and we may choose to move forward with that. But, I mean, the reality of it is if you look at the raw numbers and you're seeing it's not really, that it's not being utilized as it is, and individuals are actually paying online or choosing another form, then I don't know that we really need to use taxpayer money to pay for a study when we could look at the raw data and go like, yeah, this is not working.
Okay.
And that would be okay, too.
Yeah, then we'll bring that back to you guys.
Okay, great. I had another question too on the meter reading trucks. Now, the smart meters, if I understand, we still need to drive by and get the reading on those meters. It's not gonna be just sent right to City Hall with their usage, right?
No, actually, once we install and implement all of the AMI meters for the electric fund, or at least the bulk of them, that is only, that is a majority of the meters, not all of the meters on the electric side. On the water side, we have less than a third installed at this point, and it's going to take us another many years to financially be able to afford to replace those. As well as half of these have been replaced over the last 6 to 8 years. And so at some point here in the near future, they're going to need replacement, and they also have issues that have to be handled in the field. So, it doesn't eliminate the need for field staff. If you'll notice on the replacement of the vehicles, what they drive now are the small trucks, and that is convenient for them for a lot of starting and stopping, and that's what's proposed here is a $30,000 replacement on both. We did take a look at, replacing that with electric vehicles, and those are incredibly more expensive and not really exactly what they need for this type of function in this division. And the potential is there that the third vehicle may not need to be replaced if we're able to move those around a little bit, or if there's another one that comes available. But at this point, and I don't have the sheets with me, but those vehicles are older with more miles and a lot of rust, maintenance issues.
And on the credit card usage, I recognize that's an expensive part of our accepting payment. I know a lot of people pay that way, and I prefer that way myself. I know some places charge for that. Have we considered that, or would that be too much of a burden on our citizens?
We've talked about it, and we have not weighed all of the pros and cons yet. And I think that would be something we'd want to bring back to you as a proposal to say we either do or don't want to do that. We accept credit cards for all kinds of things. So everything from court fees and development fees, permit fees. So some of your transactions might be over 10 grand, but your regular utility bill may only be a couple $100s. So that also poses difficulty, right? Because the amount that you're paying for a $10,000 fee or invoice is a lot higher, of course, than you're paying for utilities. Also, you don't want to diminish the convenience of using a card and go back to a lot more in-person contact or processing of checks. We just have to weigh those out.
Yeah.
But there is actually, I don't know if you saw in the line item budget, but I believe it's around $130,000 in fees.
Can you
About
tell us what that number is?
135,000. I'm
What
sorry.
number is it on the, where do you have that on the budget?
It's in the
505, what?
3710, 558.10, 558.10. It's called credit card
Yeah, I
fees.
see that.
I'm sorry, I don't have the
Okay.
page numbers right.
No, that's right.
Send you there.
135,000 last year.
No.
Yeah, last year. And then we're expecting those fees to increase. The unfortunate part of this is that with our system, there's only a couple of companies that work directly with them that integrate their acceptance of the cards with our software. The current company that we use has increased their fees dramatically because our software is no longer wanting to do business with them. And so we're looking, we have an RFP prepared to go out and get bids from 2 other companies to see how we can hopefully bring that down a little bit.
Is it right around 3%, or do you know, or is it 3.5%? Or I'm not. Depends on which. card
Depends
you
on the
use.
type of
Okay.
card used, yeah.
And I'm guessing it's going to continue to increase more and more usage that way as people, I mean, I don't have many people in here who still write checks. I write 2 a month maybe, and nobody operates with cash much, I assume, so it's going to be
We do have some customers that operate with cash.
Do they? I mean,
Mhm.
auto debit out of their checking account. I would think that'd be pretty convenient too. A lot of people do that, I suppose, which is the best way to do it, but,
Yeah.
good. All right, thank you.
And I mean, I guess one of the ways that we could look at doing that is that if individuals choose to pay their bill without something that comes with a service fee, that they get a discount of it. I mean, because we're paying.
And
yeah.
a perfect example of that is
Yeah.
by ACH. You
Yeah.
know, if you're on an average billing plan and your amount is going to be fairly similar every month, and you can, your monthly household budget can withstand an automatic withdrawal. We do have that available, and you know, we encourage that as much as we can. It doesn't work for everyone, of course, but yeah, those are the things that can save us money, and you know, all of those costs are rolled into our user rates.
Sure, that's a good point.
Other questions about this division? No? Okay. We can always come back if we need to. The last true function and division is the broadband piece of our electric utility. As you're aware, we do have a new broadband provider in town, and one of our larger well, I'll start with a comment that's here. In July, the largest customer that we have will roll off to the new provider. And so what we have put together here is based on the idea that eventually those customers over the next year or so that revenue source will go away. So the city did address the broadband and high-speed internet I'll call it a crisis, because for businesses, it really was a large issue in our community, and they couldn't get what they needed. And so the city did step up and provide that service to them. And to do that, there was, it had to come with its own, infrastructure and the way to be able to provide that, and some partnerships with other companies to be able to provide that service to them, that high-speed fiber. And right now, we have a high-speed fiber loop that encircles the city with 2 BGP peered circuits for redundancy. We serve 24 customers right now. It generated about $150,000 in 2023. But with the new carrier in our market locally, we have the opportunity now, without the largest customer, to be able to decrease our bandwidth. So we are showing that you'll see a decrease in the expenses overall in that proposed budget. But also with that, we anticipate that those users will start to dwindle back and start using that other utility. And so in our revenues, we've proposed that there won't be any more revenue after 2025. Or in 2025, we're reducing that down to 0. And then in 2026, we'll divert the personnel split cost back to the general fund for the IT director that was assigned to this. And so our numbers and those budgeted line items reflect the expenses, the continued expenses show that there is still infrastructure needs and repairs and tools and things that happen, because what we'll be doing now is really supporting our own infrastructure for our city services, our city department services, our network needs, instead of having an offsetting revenue to support that. So we will have more conversations about how to approach that. Does that remain a division within the electric fund? What do we do with that going forward? As far as a budgetary or cash item. Do you have questions about broadband?
Well, I guess I'm looking at it too. So at one time, of course, we were able to sell it, and the profit we made pretty well covered our own city needs. But as those customers go away, I guess we'll be expensing that ourselves for our own purposes, and that's the reason why we're seeing the revenue go down. And here he comes.
Here we go. Yeah, we put out the RFP. We received those 2 offers.
Yeah.
Neither one of them lined up with what we were looking for, and unfortunately, we couldn't get that done. And so now we still need a lot of this for our city buildings and connecting our own infrastructure. So it's just more of a, I think we're being cautious and putting it to zero next year, just worst case scenario. And, you know, I think we're going to be there for our current customers as they find out what's best for them. And I think we really filled a gap here the last 14 years or so in the community. And so I think it's a big success story
Yeah.
to try to, but yeah, it's complicated to unwind here. And I think you're seeing some of that in the budget.
Will we be able to retain some of these current customers, or because of the competition, is it so much better, it's faster?
Well, it's going to be lower cost, and there's an economy of scale where
Yeah.
it doesn't make, because to continue, we have to keep refreshing some of our hardware that we're using to serve the customers, and once the customers get to a low enough number, then it doesn't make economical sense anymore.
Good, okay.
So,
I get
but, Paul, will any of the new broadband provider, will they be utilizing any of our infrastructure?
I think that's possible, and we're talking with them about options to get around town, kind of speed up the deployment. So, maybe.
And then, is it also possible that customers who may be leaving, who may choose to exit out of the broadband program that we have here in the city, are being offered an introductory rate that may change? I mean, at some point, we just, you know, we're not in charge of the other individual, but we are going to maintain what we have here to the best of our ability, correct? We're only in control of ourselves.
Right. Right, and the key part of this is having multiple providers. And now there are multiple providers out there, which kind of keeps them on the level a little better than if there's just one, so.
Any other questions of Paul?
Thank you.
Okay, so this screen is a summary of the utility overall, and some of the other things that are involved in the financials here that we haven't talked about because they weren't necessarily specific to each one of those divisions that we discussed is our ongoing debt payments, any project costs or planning, and then also maintaining a reserve in this fund as well. I want to mention that in this presentation, I do, as step 2, want to talk about a capital improvement fund that we have set up for the electric fund and how we're making those transfers to be able to accomplish some of those long-term purchases and projects. But within our debt that we have currently right now, we have a 2019A, a 2021B, which were both refunding issuances of previous debt from 2007 and 2010. We extended the transmission lines from the existing southwest or southeast substation to the new northeast substation and the construction of a new substation with a 2010B issuance, which pays off in 2028. And then in 2021, we issued debt for the cooling tower project. That does pay off in 2026. And then we have a current lease payment for a 2021 vehicle that pays off in 2032. That was for a bucket truck. That was a rather large purchase that at the time we didn't feel comfortable paying cash for right then. Within this planning is the couple of large capital projects that we mentioned before. It's that system conversion. So with the design in 25 and construction beginning in 26, but extending through possibly 28, and the plan for some future long-term debt being issued for that project, as well as the 15th and Main traffic light replacement in 25. That's $575,000. That design that I mentioned for the conversion is $500,000, and then the river crossing eventually in 2027. So. As you see here in some of the transfers, I've included those transfers to be made to the capital improvement fund so that the cash would then be available for those planned cash purchases. In addition to that, and is the planned payment for those AMI meters that we ordered, and that'll come from that CIP fund as well. But to kind of round up the electric fund itself. Do you have questions about what this shows? I do want to show you the trend and talk a little bit more about that ending fund balance, or I can answer some questions first. What do you?
I just had one on the investment income. Looks like you're anticipating rates going down next year, and so that's the reason it went from 100,000 down to 50 on the projection.
I'm sorry, on which one?
On the investment income, it
Oh.
shows revised.
So I'm glad you said that. So when I might have gone a little conservative on the interest in this fund. I do think actually we're going to end this year with I believe that Ms. McCurdy gave me an estimate of somewhere around 250,000 in interest that we will get for this year, but I only budgeted 100,000. I did show it as declining because we have a declining fund balance, and also we have no control over the future market. And our goal is always to budget conservatively on the revenue side and to make sure that we leave ourselves enough flexibility on the expense side that we can adequately maintain our utility. So to your point there, you see that the ending fund balance does have a downward trend. And, as our expenses really do start to level out here, our cash balance, our ending cash balance will start to come up a little bit over time. But as we've talked about with those other utilities, we have a small customer base. And so every time we implement a rate increase, it just takes a little time for that to start ramping up and adding to your base over time. Am I completely comfortable with where we are landing right here with our ending fund balance? Not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily meet what I would call a great comfort level for an ending fund balance, but I do think that there's a lot of things that are still hanging in the balance as far as projects and we include in here some reserve money, which of course we don't anticipate spending each year, as well as some fairly conservative revenue planning there as well. And then we do also have that electric capital improvement fund, which you can see it has a balance over $1 million. So that's in addition to what we have in that fund balance, and this is specific to the electric fund itself. So if you combine those two things together, it gives me a lot more comfort knowing that we have what we need in order to be able to accomplish the expenses that come with a utility such as an electric utility. I mean, no repair is ever cheap, right? And events happen, and almost all of them are outside of our control, and the timing is never convenient. So having that there and available is important. Do you have other financial questions? Or overall?
On one more, if you take the slide back to what we were talking about there, one more. There we
Yeah.
go. I just was curious, and maybe I'm not reading this right, but I see like the ending balance of 2024 projected to be 5.7 million, and the beginning balance for 25 is 6 million. I mean, it's close, but is there some numbers there that are accumulated into that before we start the year?
Yes, so I added back the reserve because I don't anticipate for it to be spent.
Okay, reserve, okay, got it. Very good.
So you're right, the math doesn't math there if you're just looking at the screen, but behind the scenes, I do add that back because I don't want it to show as though we're anticipating that balance will decline completely. And projecting out to budget years at a time, you really need to budget for that reserve in both years. So we're trying to show that we don't necessarily anticipate using all of those funds or any of those funds, quite frankly,
All right.
for the reserve.
Makes sense, yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? It's a lot of information.
Indeed.
We can always circle back and answer any questions later down the road as well.
I think you covered all the questions I had written down. Anybody else have any more questions on electric fund? Maybe, I guess, let me look at this. I gotta move my pages up. I'm not sure which one this was. Our page 24. Let's see here. Yeah, utility warehouse. I just saw that let's see, this is page 24 on our utility warehouse. Let me look here. Guess these aren't the same numbers here. Yeah, it says utility warehouse at the top of the summary of the numbers.
Okay. In the PowerPoint or in the packet?
In the packet.
Okay. This is all I have in the PowerPoint. I didn't have the numbers for each division.
Well, just, maybe you can answer just off the top of your head, but I know that we had some capital expenses in there, 260,000 revised for this year, and then nothing for the next 2 years. Are we just moving that to a different fund?
No, so in 2024, the top three items that are there includes that second phase of the racking project of 35,000, the 50,000 for the drainage study, and the 175,000 for the concrete. The 50,000 is probably reflected in the contractual services line up above in the 500s. But those would be the items for 24. And then on our 25 and 26, we really have only indicated here some line item expense increases for operating supplies, really, that we, don't have any control over, but anticipate increased costs for. So no, we don't have anything planned in that capital line. But as I mentioned, one of the projects that would probably benefit the warehouse overall is the asphalting of that parts yard, and we do need to circle back at some point and determine the priority of that project and how we might fund that. It was, I think, our estimated expenses somewhere around $1.1 million.
And I know the health insurance is going higher in everybody's category I see here, so that's just proportionate. That's just the cost of doing business, I guess, and so we need to keep that going. I think I remember, it was last week, there was a number, I think, on the health insurance.
Yep.
I don't know if you were going to go over that or not.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I should have thought of it at the time. So at our last, you had asked questions, or Mr. Sneathen had talked a little bit about the addition of the apprentice position. And because that's a full-time position with benefits, the addition then shows up in that health insurance line, as well as the capers line, as well as your salaries line. And so we do have calculations behind the scenes, and I apologize, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, so it includes the increase for the cost of the plan in addition to any other associated increases for the addition of personnel.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Any more questions anybody have? Is Zach online? Is that right? He's not. Okay. I don't have any questions either, so. All right. Well, lots of numbers to digest tonight, right?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the review of the new city alert system. And Paul's going to put his jacket back on and come back up.
I've been dressed up since my wedding day, so.
You did the same thing at your wedding, right?
That's
Quick,
right.
Get my jacket on. Okay.
Who's back there changing the camera so that you look your best angle?
It's all the presentation while I'm up here, so.
Oh, yeah.
Let me get caught up here. Okay, so the city has decided to switch from our old alert system to a service called Everbridge, which is kind of an industry standard. It's pretty popular. And it will allow us to do targeted notification. So if you can imagine drawing a square on a map or drawing a circle on a map, and you can send the notification just to that area. We've never had that capability before. Our old system was all or nothing. If you were on the list, you were going to get the text that said, whatever, the power's out or whatever. So this one will give us a lot more ability to get better information to the people that actually need it. And so that's why people have to sign up again, because they were in the old system. We only had their phone number and that was it. But now we need we need an address tied to that number to know where they are on the map or where they care about on the map in Ottawa. And you can have multiple addresses. If you wanted your house or you wanted your mother's house, you would get notifications for every address that you put in there. So I made up a little fact here that I'll put up online later on. You have to sign up if you want to receive an alert. No one is automatically entered into the system. We can't use the old contact list because it didn't have the addresses tied to the phone numbers that we need for the targeted alerts. I've seen somebody said if the city will be watching everywhere I go. We don't know everywhere you go if you sign up. We only are using that one location, that one address that you put in when you signed up, that's how you're going to get the alert. You can add multiple locations. You don't have to download the app. I think it automatically, of course, wants you to download the app, but you can cancel out of that and just sign up online like a normal web sign up. And yes, you can you can opt out at any time. How much did this program cost? I've seen some incredibly expensive ideas online about how much this may have cost, but this is about $5,500 per year, and we're not limited in the number of notifications that we can send out. And that's a great advantage because our old system was credit-based. So you buy so many credits, you could send out so many notifications. You kind of had to worry about the economy of, is this worth sending out? This costs money. But now we can be a lot, we can send out more notifications because there's no, it doesn't matter. And then this is coming out of the risk management budget, which kind of lines up a little bit as far as what we're going to be using it for and how it will be deployed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So what are more examples, and besides electrical outage, that people have used for this purpose, other cities or whatever you know of?
It goes all the way from, we're flushing the hydrants in your area. This road's going to be closed next week. There's been hostage situations where you can send an alert to an area, but actually remove the person who maybe you don't want to get the notification, but everybody else gets a notification. So
Wow.
there's a lot of opportunities to communicate with the system like this, and I think we're just tapping into the possibilities.
And so your department posts these, or are you in conjunction with the police department? How does that work?
Yeah, it will. Right now, it's all funneling into the IT department, but we will be able to set up users in other departments that can also send out notifications.
That's great. And the usage, how many people have signed up so far? Do you know yet?
Oh, good question. Yes, 700. As of about lunchtime, there were 700
Okay,
that
good.
have signed up so far. Our old system had about 2,000, and so for a week and a half or so, I think we've captured quite a bit already. And of course, we'll keep posting that. Usually when an event happens is when we'll have a large sign up.
So, and people signing up, I thought I heard someone having some trouble signing up. Has that been eliminated, or we're smooth and sailing?
We've helped people who have contacted us via Facebook, or some people have even called in and made it to the IT department, and we try to help as much as we can. Probably the biggest wrinkle that I've heard is if you already are signed up with Everbridge in some other community, then because you're not technically signing up anymore, you already have an Everbridge account somewhere, and it's just a matter of connecting the two to Ottawa.
Okay, so for how people sign up, can you tell us that so they're listening what we need to do or what they need to do?
We have on the city website and the Facebook page, there's a city alerts page.
Yeah.
And you click there and there's a sign up button, and you push that and it will guide you through the process.
Business.
And if you do it on your phone, it'll pop up and automatically want you to download the app, and you can just click cancel, and then it'll take you right back to the website to
Yes.
finish signing up. So.
I actually purposely started signing up right as Paul was going, and I'm done, and I've been done for
Well, that's a
couple
good
minutes.
example.
there
Same,
you
so
go.
now we have 702 or
There
whatever.
you
Oh,
go.
that's right.
I literally
That's right.
I was like, I'm going to see how long it takes,
Yeah.
and it took 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Good for you. Good.
But I think the first time we
Taking
used
20.
it was Sunday night, when the power out, we had a power outage, and we were able to just send a text alert to these two areas, and it worked well.
Good. That's a great idea. Stay alert. That's the way to do it. Anybody else have more questions with Paul? Good job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Take your jacket off now.
Yes.
We'll go on to our comments by our city manager.
And I'll ask Paul to keep his jacket on so he can walk through our latest postings as we give a rundown over our citizen engagement through our social media platforms over the past week. Unless you need to be back there. Okay. Save it for last. Want to start off with our limb collection, just reminding everyone that our crews will be around. So we want to thank Director Hafley and Justin and DJ and their teams for helping us with the storm debris. The 10th and Borough project, which is the intersection there with the part that was removed. We had the sewer pipe that was plumbed through, and that brick outlay, and then this steel container was what was removed, and then it's been overtopped with some temporary fill until it can be repaved at a future date, but it is open and fully capable at this time. Want to update you that we're going to have a slight delay due to the recent weather conditions for the Highland Cemetery, so we do apologize to everyone as this project started in February, so we're a little behind schedule, particularly with the rainy weather. So we just want to make people aware that this will be, we'll have markers. DJ and his team with the Deb, the sexton, have placed markers out in the appropriate location. And again, everything is, GIS. We've used GPS to pinpoint exactly where each one goes and has its own unique identifier. So just want to remind folks that ultimately the intent of the project is to improve the drainage area in that cemetery. That'll ultimately extend the life of the monuments that they've purchased for their loved ones. So that's what the intent of this is. Just an update on the Homeless Coalition meeting that occurred and the key highlights, which was their coalition leadership, the rename bylaws, mission statement, and benefits of a 501c structure, and then next meeting on June 10th with the Kansas State-wide Homeless Coalition. We have finalized the agreement last week with Mr. Zachary Rahman. His lawn and tree company was the best bidder of the three that were awarded for mowing our nuisance properties, and so we'll have that distributed in January of 25 for coverage for the 25 calendar year moving forward. But he's provider of our 2024 services. Our police department highlights include completion of our police week, and want to thank everyone who turned out to back the blue, including the approximately 70 folks who turned out for the awards banquet. Want to remind everyone that should say KDOT. I apologize. Our PD will be doing the annual KDOT Memorial Day step enforcement, which targets our seatbelts, speeding, and impaired driving. And then, as you know, our very popular and I'll say award-winning DARE program, DARE Camp, is in full swing with the planning. So just want to remind folks that we had paper registrations go out with the students at the end of school, and the police department registration will be posted to the webpage soon. The camp's free to all of our USD 290 and Sacred Heart students who completed the DARE program, and there's other students from around the area as well. And the camp's fully funded through our Ottawa Police Foundation, which was the fundraisers that we had highlighted for the attendance with Pizza Hut and Not Lost Brewery for our operations there. And then just staffed by our wonderful police department personnel and assistants from Wellsville, Franklin County Sheriff in their detention center, as well as teen and adult volunteers from throughout the community. Our latest numbers up till Friday of last week for our active code enforcement cases. We've got 16 active with closing of 19, 6 junk or debris properties with 23 abated, and we have 2 vehicle active with 2 that have been closed. And then we're currently in the process of the statutory provisions for a dangerous and unsafe properties declaration. And then there was a site triangle issue that has been mitigated.
What is sight triangle? What is
That's
that?
when you pull up to an intersection and you're able to view
Oh, because of the brush on the grass, okay.
signing. It could be any number of things. Oftentimes it's street signs. I mean, so, we
Yeah.
have to send our street department out to mitigate that as well. Give you a rundown of our budget calendar for next week, which will be the review of our water utility fund. Then on June 5th, we'll have a review of our community partners. And obviously, the big thing will be our July 17th final review before we establish the R&R with a September 4th adoption date. And with that, I'll turn it over to Paul.
Amen. Okay.
You get the credit, because this is a good report.
Just run through here's just what we posted online in about the last 10 days on Facebook. And so we'll just run through these real fast. We had the muffler replacement at the power plant was a big hit. We've been doing these preview of the commission meetings and then recap of the commission meetings. Nobody likes those, so I don't know if we'll keep doing those or not. I don't know what that means, but nobody likes those.
And how do you determine that nobody likes them?
They get
The
no
ones that little
interactions.
white down there.
Yeah,
Hold on, we're letting Paul tell us.
they get no interactions. That's probably me. That one like is probably me.
The one.
Yes.
Paul or Laura came
I
on
keep-
and liked it. You're
I
like,
keep
"All
liking
right."
it. I try to jumpstart it, but it goes nowhere when we put these up. But all they do is they tell when the meeting is, what are the agenda items, not every agenda item, just like the topical ones, and that's it. But no, they don't get any traction.
Wow.
Anything with the pool is always great, filling up the pool. There's when we posted the alert system for the first time, asking for people to sign up. There's the actual commission meeting, then pictures from the commission meeting.
Oh, we got 2 on that one.
You got the
Nice
bid
one, sir.
opening. There's the commission meeting recap, which it got ghosted. There's absolutely no interaction whatsoever.
It was only a day ago.
Well,
Give it time, huh?
I'm sure there's still not a like
After
there.
this,
If
all
we-
4 of us will go on and like it. It'll be okay.
I'm going through right now.
That's
I'm
right.
on there liking.
Then we posted the retreat hours, then we have the dog thing. I don't even know a whole lot about that, but
They got more than we did.
people like dogs, yes. Then the job postings is up there. The proclamation, that went over well.
No, we finally got one up there.
The sinkhole captured most people's attention. Everything we put up about the sinkhole, it got good reactions. And the splash pad, that's like the rock star of what we've been doing this spring. We can count on that for bringing in
What if
all,
we did the breakdown of what's going to happen at the next city commission while we're at the splash pad?
that,
Oh.
a
With
crossover.
the dog.
With the dog.
With the dog, a crossover event. I think that could work.
I'll bring it to you.
Road closed. Oh, there's the power outage updates. And the limb collection. And then just kind of reposting some of the stuff for signing up for the city alerts. Commission meeting preview again. And then all of these are just the original content that we put up. We also shared a lot of posts from local organizations as well. And so there was this and then a whole lot more happening just on Facebook in the last 8 or 10 days. So yeah, just a snippet of what's going on. And sometimes on Facebook, the way the algorithms work, if you don't like things, it won't show you things the next time the city posts something, if that makes sense. So a lot of times you're like, well, the city's not posting anything, but then if you go and look at our actual Facebook page and scroll down, you can see everything we've posted. And if you interact with it, the next time we post something, the more likely it will be to show it to you.
Oh, I see.
And so that's kind of how it works.
Good. Okay. Well, I watched Melissa's bid opening. I guess, was there one?
Did
I
you
didn't-
like it?
Well, I didn't.
Did you like it?
I don't know how to like it. I guess I need to click something.
We're gonna go through
else.
that after
So we'll go
this.
through that later. All right. I liked it, but
That's
I guess I
covered,
didn't.
that's under
post
my
it like-
comments by the governing body.
Oh, okay. All right. Show me how. All right. That was good. Thank you, Paul.
right,
Good
thank you.
job, buddy. All right. Appreciate that. We'll go to commissioner comments. Let's start with Commissioner Kadler. Why don't you start us off then? I'll take the heat while
I'm
we-
in a whole-
Yeah.
Nothing at this time.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Okay. Commissioner Crowley.
I have nothing.
Pro Tem Allen.
I have no comment.
Okay. I just have a couple here. I just wanted to mention that the Azura Credit Union had their groundbreaking Tuesday at lunchtime at Price Chopper parking lot, next to Price Chopper. It's just always exciting to see ground being turned. I think it's a good thing to see some progress in town, to know that other businesses in town, out of town, see what we already see as a great opportunity for some business to come to town, relocate, or to locate at another branch, and we're anxious to see how that works. But some very nice people there we got to meet, and looking forward, they should have that completed sometime in 2025, I believe. So Pro Tem Allen, if you're mayor, you'll be able to cut that ribbon with them on that one, so I'll be there to watch. The other thing too, I guess, on Memorial Day weekend coming up here quickly, I can't believe we're already there in May 27th. I guess all the cemeteries are up to snuff, Michael, and we're ready to go for big crowds to come in town, right? That's the answer I wanted to hear. Thank you. But I want to make sure everybody has a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend too. So I guess the other things we got coming up, being May 29th, we got a city commission meeting at 4, and then June 5th will be at 7 p.m. Nothing else to come before the city commission meeting